Continuing on with the technical awards here, we're going to start off with the best and the worst ring skills, and of course, worst comes first, so worst ring skills of the year.
Even though I steal most of my moveset from this man, the Great Khali. And I'm laughing because I do almost every single thing he does.
You do the chop, you do the headbutt.
I do it all. But that's all he does. And he's a former world heavyweight champion, so Vince, if you're watching, I can move a little bit better than he can. My legs bend. And I can get up off the ground. So, Great Khali, you, just retire.
Somebody needs to put him on his back like a turtle and see what happens.
God, isn't it funny, guys? Or it's a bit more like, funny, guys.
I'm also going with the Great Khali. Because you knew to explain this a word. Khali is the worst.
It's the Great Khali and the Savage Chris Days, with the limited moveset of the year.
Worst ring skills, Khali. I mean, you could have this award for the next 50 years, and I think he might be the worst of all time, possibly.
Oh, easily.
He's just so terrible.
That or Snuka when he returned to the Rumble. He couldn't even get up the ropes. And him and Piper with his massive beer belly and
throwing the jacket around.
It's stuck!
I'd like to see Khali pull that out.
Doesn't make noises like that. I don't know why I keep doing it.
Contrary to that, who do you think has the best ring skills?
It's got to be Daniel Bryan. I feel like he has a new move every match. Like, he has such a large arsenal to go to, and depending who he puts in the ring with him, it exposes that. Like, some of the best string of matches in 2012 were him and Punk, because they brought the best out of each other. And later on in the awards here, you'll see another thing that it's a testament to Daniel Bryan. But I just feel like he has something new to show us. He's never getting stale.
Mm-hmm. I almost gave this to Daniel Bryan, and then, you know what? I was just like, I gotta give it to Dolph Ziggler, because he's not getting enough credit this year.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan is awesome, and that takes a lot for me to admit, because I used to be incredibly down on Daniel Bryan. I used to just be like, he's so fucking overrated.
Oh, just fire him for real.
Oh my god, I'm so glad that they knocked him out so Alex Riley can move on instead. And like,
say it to my face!
But Dolph Ziggler, he and Daniel Bryan are pretty much like in a class by themselves, I think, right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think CM Punk's the best, and he's up there, but he phones it in a lot, I think, in comparison to the two of them.
Yeah, this year is a big phone-in year, and it's probably because he really hasn't been doing much.
He's been injured and everything. And
yeah.
Ziggler, I mean, the only time he stops going crazy is when he has a concussion.
Yeah.
So, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Ziggler is the man. I don't think he's had a bad match with anybody unless that person has just been so over the top bad, like a Khali, that he can't possibly do it.
Yeah, and even then, it's their best match.
Yeah, like, still. He can pull a good match out of, like, Tensai.
Yeah.
He can pull a good match out of probably Khali. But Ziggler doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, especially by WWE. Best and the worst mic skills of the year. Worst talker in WWE.
I'm going to give it to Roman Reigns because he can't say the word believe.
What?
Believe in the Shield.
I have to pay attention to that now.
Believe.
But he's so handsome.
He is. I get lost in his eyes. That's why I just ignore the believe. Believe.
I kind of feel bad, but the Great Khali. Based off of what you saw in the last video.
I'm the ring.
It's so awkward to see somebody who... There's basically two things that you need to be a wrestler. There's three things. You have to have the look, which Khali has the look of imposing figure. But you have to be a good speaker, and you have to be good in the ring. And he's awful in both.
To go back on this, and I think it was this year, and I can't believe I forgot it. This was the year he got pinned, and as he's pinned, counted 1, 2, 3. Why didn't you kick out? You knew he was counting. What is wrong with you? That was probably I'm putting that as my mark out moment.
Just horrible. Khali's just terrible on the mic, and they've had him for years now, and there's nothing to get out of. You can squeeze that and try to get the littlest bit of a drop. Nothing's coming out.
Yeah, they fed him as Cena food way back when, and they had him because of The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. That is now like a 5-year-old movie. Get rid of him. The movie wasn't even that great. Chris Rock died.
Best mic skills of the year.
Even though in the last segment we were talking about how he kind of phoned it home with his in-ring, going into 2013, there was no one hotter than CM Punk. And his promos with The Rock, and this isn't a testament to The Rock, because The Rock can draw out that kind of emotion from someone, still resonates. His promos with The Rock of how, I'm here, 360. He did the same thing Cena did for the once-in-a-lifetime match, but better. Because Punk truly believes he's the best in the world,
right.
Whereas Cena's like, yeah, financially I'm the best in the world, but, there's like 10 guys back there who can out-wrestle me. His promos with The Rock, they still ring to me, and they still stick out, so any other mic skills after that, it just kind of a blur for me. So that Royal Rumble Elimination Chamber match between these two, it had some really good promos.
I did like that promo that he had originally at the beginning of the year. That actually almost won an award later on. But.
Yeah, he won it for me.
I'm going with Damien Sandow. I don't think I've ever heard this guy cut a single promo that I wasn't entertained by. Whether he was singing Randy Orton's theme, or he's just coming out and just kind of being like, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. That's really all he has to do, but he does it in such a way that it's so entertaining. I mean,
yeah.
And when WrestleMania came around, we were doing WrestleMania Access, and I got a chance to, meet Damien Sandow, talk to him for a minute or so. He just kept that character going, even when he could really just basically phone it in around fans and just kind of sit there and just be like, hey, how you doing, whatever. But he's spitting out, these words that even I am like, and I'm a grammar Nazi, even I am like, I'm not sure what that means or something. He's got that quill pen, and he's just carrying himself with such a good character and everything. His promo skills are just awesome. I just love it. I wouldn't mind him having like one of those purely dedicated to him WWE episode things.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, instead of, the JBL and Cole show or something like that.
I think another honorable mention, because Sandow's a really good pick. Anytime he's come out, and when you were saying anytime he comes out, I'm entertained. Someone who comes out, and he necessarily isn't the best mic skills, but they're certainly the funniest, is Zeb Coulter.
Zeb Coulter's good.
Anytime he comes out, he's got some kind of insult that you just like, that's pushing the line of PG. Oh, you border banditos! Hopping over the fence in Mexico! So, to me, he's an honorable mention, just because he's so offensive.
And unfortunately, in comparison, total honorable mention for worst of the year, Jack Swagger, because he just stands there.
We the people! I just spit everywhere.
Alright, who was the most overrated superstar of the year, and in comparison, who was the most underrated? So who doesn't get enough praise, and who gets way too much? Worst of the year, who's the most overrated person?
I know it's going to sound like a broken record, and I know that everybody on the internet is like, yeah, you're just saying that because it's who it is, but I think John Cena, and the only reason I'm going with him this year, even though he had a great promo going to TLC, it's been 10 years. You started pushing up these guys like Daniel Bryan and, Sandow won the Money in the Bank. And still, the spotlight was on him, even when he wasn't there, when he was getting his elbow surgery. Like, come on. It would mean so much more if you didn't talk about him and he showed back up than, well, John's going to be back in 14 days, 23 hours, and 11 minutes. It's just, I get he's your face of the company, even if Orton is technically the face right now. But it's just, I think if you pull back a little bit on John, we'd be more susceptible to him. Because Rock got the oversaturation. I was siding with Cena. Orton, Cena kind of played a back role in that. Orton's been on like the camera all the time, and then Cena was kind of just like, well, this is how it really is, and then that's all you really got from him.
And you sided with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I sided with Daniel Bryan. But I think less is more when it comes to John Cena, and the biggest payoffs for him have been when it's less is more. So I know it's cliche, but I think he's the most overrated.
You're going to hear a lot from this guy, and it's not Kali and Ryback. Alberto Del Rio. He is so overrated by WWE. They are stuck up his ass for so much stuff, and he has never proven it. They want him to be like the top guy in the company, and they just keep giving him championship after championship. And then when he loses that championship after months of terrible reigns, they just make him the #1 contender for the next 6 fucking months until he wins it back again. Like, he is perpetually put in the main event, and he's nowhere near main event quality. If this were the Attitude Era, and people do that all the time, where they're like, oh, in the Attitude Era, CM Punk would be a mid-carder and all that. Del Rio, he wouldn't even be a fucking mid-carder.
Sunday Night Heat.
I think Del Rio would be a standout in the tag team division. He would be basically the equivalent of Savio Vega.
Yes, he would.
Where they want to push him, they want to be and credit to them, I would understand it too. I would do it too if it could work. To have a Latino superstar like Del Rio get over. But he's not. No. And they're refusing to pay attention to that. And it's so annoying because fucking Del Rio!
He was a runner-up on mine, but I knew you were pretty mad.
So who doesn't get enough credit? Who's the most underrated?
Zack Ryder! Woo, woo, woo! You know it. That guy is actually talented. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to disagree, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail underneath from Dane. But he's actually a good wrestler. If you watch the string of matches between him and Ziggler for the U.S. title, they stole the end of year that year. And he can put on a good match. He's got a gimmick that, yes, it may irritate some. Then go turn him heel. If you turn him heel, that's a great character to work against, like, these generic faces like Kofi Kingston and all those, mainly just Kofi. And, but it's just
Kali,
yeah. He's got character. He shows initiative, and yet let's just put him on there to hawk merchandise. Come on, he's going to be probably released soon, and it sucks. So
it's symbolic. Ryder's behind you as much as you're behind Ryder.
Yeah. Woo woo woo. You know it.
Most underrated, I gotta say, is Wade Barrett.
The bad
What the fuck are they doing with Wade Barrett? The Bad News Barrett thing is funny, but it's funny in a bad way. I mean, this is not going to get him over. And he started off this year with potential to possibly be a Money in the Bank winner. No, as soon as WrestleMania came around, he lost to Miz, and then they just had him beat the Miz back again. Mm-hmm. You could tell that they just really kind of didn't care about that whole Intercontinental spot. And then he loses it to Curtis Axel because they just desperately wanted it off of Wade Barrett. They were going to give it to Fandango, and then they had that concussion, so they give it to Curtis Axel. And Wade Barrett does nothing. He does nothing for months. And he's so much better than this. I mean, I don't think that he's somebody who can be a 10-time world champion, especially now that we only have one title, but he should have been the champion back when Del Rio was given the title and the whole concussion thing happened with Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Because Wade Barrett had that whole gimmick of, I'm going to knock you the fuck out with my finisher. He could have hit the bullhammer on Dolph Ziggler, become world champion, and you could have given somebody else a shot instead of fucking Del Rio.
Yeah, they dropped so many balls with him ever. The Nexus angle is one of the best angles that have happened in recent memory, and he's a leader. If you can lead a group or a faction, CM Punk,
new people too, and get them over.
Yeah, CM Punk, Triple H, Shawn. They've all led factions, and they've made great champions. So they're dropping the balls.
Boom! That's what we're going with for that one. Alright, we just knocked out who is the most overrated and most underrated, and something that kind of ties into that is who has the most improvement when it comes to the superstars themselves. Who kind of went from really high up to a little bit of a nosedive, and who was kind of borderline bottom or anything else of that magnitude, and they really shot up and became a superstar in their own right. So who was the downgrade of the year?
Coming off of 2012, and I'm wearing his hoodie, and he's in this picture, but the year he had in 2012 compared to the year he had in 2013 is CM Punk, and we talked about it a little earlier where he phoned it home. Don't get me wrong, he's still entertaining to watch. He's still above most people. But when you talk about like downgrading and from where you were last year to this year, it feels like between injuries and stuff, he's just phoning it home. So I'm gonna go with CM Punk. It's not a knock against him. I still rather watch him over like 90% of the roster. It's just the decline has been seen.
I'm going with Ryback, and Ryback had a damn good year in 2012. Mm-hmm. He was looking to be a potential face of the company. He had a title shot out of nowhere, and he was incredibly over with the crowd. And WWE were just not ready to give it to him. And then instead of moving on, giving him a different feud where he could have kept that momentum going, they kept having him lose to Punk. And it got to the point where everybody thought, oh, well, he's got to win the Royal Rumble then. He's got to just beat Big Show, and that'll be his big spot. He'll get Big Show up on his shoulders, do that. Didn't win that. So then it was, okay, well, maybe we'll wait until WrestleMania and he'll get a good spot anyway. And he just has a match with Mark Henry. And then he loses the match with Mark Henry. Mm-hmm. And then he turns heel and loses against John Cena. And he loses, and he loses, and he loses. Ryback went from a guy that people thought could have won the Hell in a Cell match to beat CM Punk and derail the whole Rock feud mm-hmm. to somebody who lost every single pay-per-view, I think, in his entire career, except for, since that point, except for the match against Jericho. Mm-hmm. I think he's lost every single one of them. And he's lost important matches on Raw. Now it's to the point where he's in the tag team division, and he's not even the tag team champion or challenging for the fucking title. He's getting knocked out first.
By Goldust.
Yeah. Teaming with Curtis Axel, who, he's still Michael McGill-Tony. Mm-hmm. That's an insult in itself.
It's a shame, because he was a victim of timing. Mm-hmm. WWE Creative got, like you said, he was steamrolling, and then they had the Punk Rock thing, and it was kind of like, well, now we're back into a freaking corner.
Right, because we don't plan ahead.
Yeah, so, victim of time.
Who is the person who improved the most?
I'm going to go with Fandango. I remember when he first debuted, and then he immediately got on a WrestleMania match against Jericho. Yeah. Everybody was like, are you serious? This guy is terrible. He's botching, like he's jumping off the top rope with a leg drop, which is completely dangerous. He's not really wrestling. He's just walking away. He's on WrestleMania? Come on, we don't want to see this. Then he had his WrestleMania moment, and he just took off. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was not a fan of Fandango when he first came out. He ignored the shit out of me. I didn't think he belonged on WrestleMania. At least somebody else did. And then he had his WrestleMania moment, and more importantly, the Raw after WrestleMania, and he just took off. So that to me is a huge spike of interest like that.
Fandango as well. Same reasons. He's kind of tapered down a little bit, but I think Fandango's still at a point now where if he got the Intercontinental or the U.S. title, I'd completely buy into it. Mm-hmm. And who the fuck cared about Johnny Curtis?
No, nobody.
Nobody cared about Johnny Curtis. Although I always thought that it was funny when he was doing the chip on the shoulder and the crying over spilled milk and all that. Fuck it, just bring that back to it while you're at it. Just make Fandango do that as well.
It's perfect. Like I said, he just took off.
Extra bonus credits to Fandango.com because they're going to end up beating the shit out of WWE with that lawsuit eventually. So yes. They're going to get a little bit of an improvement there as well. But
that's why he's not champion yet.
Yeah, because they're just so worried about that. They're going to end up having that little the plate here that's supposed to say the name of the person. It's going to say Fandango.com because that's the only deal that they'll end up getting through.
Or it's blurred out like the WWF logos.
So I'm going with Fandango as well. So 2 votes for Fandango. Good job, Fandango. We give you the little golf clap instead of the Batista down.